Now, when they couldn't get anywhere with the God is dead idea, now in these 70s, one of the top theological questions is, where did God come from? Now, the primary purpose of God in creation was to prepare a moral being, spiritually and intellectually capable of worshiping Him. When heaven and earth were yet unmade, when there was empty blackness and void formlessness, and darkness was on the face of the deep, when time was yet unknown, thou in thy bliss and majesty did live and love alone. He called light out of darkness, He called cosmos out of chaos, He called order out of confusion. But the question still clamors for an answer. Where did God come from? And the answer is, He came from nowhere. Now that's theologically correct and it's biblically sound. For Habakkuk said, I saw Him when He left the hills of Teman, the Holy One from Mount Paran, and Teman simply means nothing or nowhere. So He came from nowhere. I made that statement in Detroit some time ago, and a man talked with me after the service, and he said, preacher, let's be reasonable about this thing. You up there talking about God came from nowhere. That doesn't make sense. Let's be reasonable about it. I said, all right. If you just want to be reasonable about it, the reason God came from nowhere is because there wasn't anywhere for Him to come from. And coming from nowhere, He stood on nothing. And the reason He had to stand on nothing, there was nowhere for Him to stand. And standing on nothing, He reached out where there was nowhere to reach, and He caught something when there was nothing to catch, and hung something on nothing and told it to stay there. Now you can find that in Job 26:7. That He hung this world on nothing. And standing on nothing, He took the hammer of His own will and struck the anvil of His omnipotence. And sparks flew therefrom, and He caught them on the tips of His fingers and flung them out into space and bedecked the heavens with stars. And nobody said a word. The reason nobody said anything, there wasn't anybody there to say anything. So God Himself said, that's good. And if you really want to live,